Welcome to Inside the Focus, and today we're talking all things Liverpool. It's been a mad, 8 hours since the news came out that Liverpool are pulling out of the Jude Bellingham race. We're going to dig into this to find out, are they really out the race? But don't worry, you're not only listening to me. Thankfully, I've got David with me, who's the main man for our Merseyside news, the Merseyside correspondent with us here at Football Insider. So, David, bonkers few hours for Liverpool fans. They're trying to take in the information that's coming. There's obviously a million reports, because there have been a million reports on Jude Bellingham every day now, it feels like, for a year and a half or so. Liverpool were front runners on the race. So let's kick off with the line, shall we, which is Jude Bellingham. Are they actually out the race? Because from what we've understood from my information, your information, legitimately great journalist information for so long, is Liverpool were really working hard on this, have been for a long time, and we're in a really confident position. And then last night, it's like the rug from under their feet. All of a sudden, they're not. What's the truth behind this?
Yeah, well, I think the one thing we can definitely say is they won't be signing Jude Bellingham this summer. He's 2 years out on his contract, and they believe that the price, that if he was to leave Dortmund this summer, the price would be just too much considering the scale of the work that they need to do on the squad. That's the decision Liverpool have made, and I think it's a bit of a surprise given the amount of legwork they've put into this deal. I think they've been caught by surprise by how much of the squad has fallen off, and like I say, the scale of what they need to do. I think that's sort of caught them by surprise. And as recently as last month, you had sort of senior sources at the club were still describing him as the number one target. So that it's a relatively recent decision. I think the fact it's come out now is possibly off the back of the fact that there were some early reports, weren't there, yesterday about the idea of Liverpool putting a bid in. And I think it was considered that, okay, it's time to sort of put this to bed now. I think that decision has been made. Jurgen Klopp alluded to it, didn't he, in a recent press conference, saying that over the international break, they had a real talk about sort of what's going to happen going forward and what the plans were for the summer. And I think that is when the decision has been made that, yeah, okay, we love Bellingham, we've put a lot of work in, but this isn't the move for us at this time. In terms of whether it means they're fully out, that's probably down to Bellingham now. There will be other interest. We know Manchester City and Real Madrid.
Do you think he's actually given them a nudge?
Well, I think we know that interest is there now. So the big decision from his perspective is whether he holds out now and says, okay, I'll play another season at Dortmund. It's great for my development to play in this league and play regularly. I don't need to make this big move now. And then he turns down Manchester City and Real Madrid and then makes his big move when he's got a year out from his contract and the price is more reasonable, or whether he thinks now is the right time. I need to go and get out there and start winning trophies and do all that. That's the big call. I think if he waited another year, I think Liverpool would definitely be back in the mix and would want to have a look at it. So you can't completely rule that out, but it's, a Manchester City going to give them the chance to do that? A Real Madrid going to give them the chance to do that? Is this the time when they try and pounce and get in there? Because money's not going to be an issue for them, is it? If they want a player, they'll get it done, and that's obviously not the case for Liverpool at the moment.
No, and it does feel a bit like almost it's kind of got Enzo Fernandez vibes to it when Chelsea went in January and they knew they had to get him in January. They knew that they could get him then because they were well aware that Madrid, Barcelona, there was interest in Italy for him as well for summer. So Chelsea acted then, and it feels like Manchester City and Real Madrid are pushing to act now for Bellingham because what a talent, what a player, and you can sign him up for a long-term contract and secure an asset for the next 5 years at least. So an incredible signing for whoever gets him. A lot of work has gone into this, though, David. I think that's why Liverpool fans are probably feeling slightly dejected and deflated by this, is because we know how much work's gone into this. We know that Jurgen Klopp signposted him to his bosses, the board, saying this is the guy I want. We know that Liverpool were trying to ring fence money for him as well. We know that Bellingham's agents have been at the games and been in contact a lot over the kind of last, let's say, 6 months. So it's a lot of work gone into something that's just bearing no fruit now.
Yeah, it speaks to sort of the confusion around Liverpool's strategy at the moment. I think fans will be frustrated and absolutely justified in being so because, as you say, so much work's gone into it. But also Liverpool have been quite happy to sort of trot out the line and certainly not shot it down that Bellingham was going to be the number one target. And now that all looks like it's just been an attempt to sort of placate fans during a period where, in a difficult season when they've not spent on the midfield in the summer. the previous summer, and then it's all been like, okay, well, it's going to be worth it if you get Jude Bellingham. It's all about securing our number one top target. We don't want to compromise on targets, and then you get to this summer and they're not even going to do that. So it's just proof, really, that that Liverpool could and should have acted last summer. If it wasn't going to end up being Bellingham, then there were other midfield alternatives, some of whom are going to come into play this time, who could have been secured a year earlier, and that midfield rebuild could have started. So negligence, really, you have to say, and poor sort of sporting strategy, and a big concern for Liverpool fans, because some of the decisions that are being made in the since Michael Edwards left are slightly questionable, and you worry, Liverpool, okay, on the face of it, this could be a really smart decision to sort of spread the money over multiple signings because Liverpool need to do a lot. But will they spend as smartly as they have in the past? That is the huge test. I think you could have said a couple of years ago that you'd have no worries about how Liverpool would spend the money. I don't think that's quite the case anymore, and fans will be concerned.
Yeah, we'll get into the potential targets to come in the next part of this, but FSG are already under some scrutiny from the supporters for the way that they're kind of running the club, and especially the transfer policy, right? I think that's where fans really see where their season ticket goes, etc. And this season, you've talked about it, you touched on it, the age in Liverpool midfield, the decline in that midfield. We know that Keita's set to go. We know that the likes of Oxlade-Chamberlain are set to go, although he plays maybe further forward than in that three, which is really the core element that Liverpool want to strengthen. This is only going to add more pressure on their shoulders from the fans, isn't it? Because if they don't deliver in summer, three very good midfielders, and Liverpool are struggling again, that's going to be that could turn quite sour quite quick.
Yeah, because there's already been huge questions over the transfer policy for a few years now. So I think this will be the straw that broke the camel's back. I think, a lot of that heat that FSG have taken has probably been sort of more online. But I think some of this will, if the signings are not right and Liverpool struggle again next season, I think some of that will maybe bleed into the ground a little bit. It's not something we've seen so far, but maybe there's potential for that to happen. Liverpool really have to get this summer right, and like I say, it's absolutely fine strategy-wise to say, okay, Bellingham is extremely expensive and we can probably better use that money, but they have to be three very good midfielders. It's not okay to say, okay, we can't sign the number one, the most coveted midfielder in Europe right now, and we'll just get three average players in. That that really will not wash, because I think Liverpool fans want to see the team bounce back next season. They can accept this poor season if the right decisions are made to bring Liverpool back to challenging next season. If you end up with three players who really don't cut the mustard, and Liverpool are just going to end up in this position again, aren't they, next season, where they've misspent the money, and there'll be real regret over that. So yeah, it's a huge summer, and FSG have really got to back the manager and show that the sporting structure they've put in place in the aftermath of Michael Edwards leaving, it works, and that they're still making smart recruitment decisions.
It's interesting because Klopp's you feel Klopp's re-energized to go again. You feel Klopp's ready to build, but it's whether he's going to build with three starters, which you would expect Liverpool to be bringing in three guys to come in there and start, or if he's going to be forced to use maybe a few younger players. You've seen that happen this season just through injury, some younger players coming in, and there have to be patience, but you don't get patience at Liverpool or in the Premier League. And the other problem they've got, of course, is those around them are going to strengthen again as well. So they're already chasing their tail a little bit, and that's only going to get worse for them. So it's going to have to be three very, really good signings. Probably maybe a defensive one as well, David, I think. And then, up front, they seem fine. They've certainly got plenty of numbers up there. But next season could be very tough again. Very, very tough again for Jurgen Klopp and Liverpool. And could you see the manager getting tired of this? Because it's hard for him if he's not able to compete, basically.
Yeah, you get the sense he's been fighting with his hand tied behind his back for a while, really. It's his genius, really, that's such a big part of Liverpool's success, and the fact they've been able to sort of, pit City to trophies, win a Champions League, which City haven't done, and beat them to a league and run them so close in recent years. A lot of that's down to the manager rather than sort of heavy spending or anything like that. So that, again, is just the proof that they have to be smart. And I think, one thing you would say is a potential upside for this, and you touched on it there, is, does it allow them to do something defensively that probably wouldn't have been possible if they got Jude Bellingham in? I think that's increasingly becoming, looking like a priority at the moment. Yeah. I think, Joe Matip is sort of the injuries are getting him at the moment. He's not played as well as you'd hope this season. Van Dijk could probably do with his games managing a little bit more. And Joe Gomez, his form hasn't quite hit height since he signed that new contract again. So, So Liverpool probably need to do something in the defensive area of the team. So at least it gives them scope to do that, as well as sort of the midfield reinvigoration that needs to happen. So, that can be an upside. But again, like I say, it takes smart decisions, and do you back Liverpool to do that? Jurgen Klopp will certainly hope so, because he needs that backing. He needs the right players. And that's the only way Liverpool will get back up there, because, as you say, it's getting more and more difficult. Newcastle sneaking into the top 4 this season is a disaster from Liverpool's perspective.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. So they will spend heavily again. So yeah, huge summer for Liverpool. They have to get it right.
Yeah, Newcastle going into that top 4 spot is probably not just a disaster for Liverpool, but you look at the likes of Chelsea and co as well. They'll all be gutted to see them do that, because that changes Newcastle's perspective for summer, doesn't it? Massively. So another big fish in the pond for them to compete with.